The Patient and Carer Experience, including Complaints and Feedback Annual Report 21-22, provides an overview of the work carried out across the organisation to support the patient and carer experience and engagement agenda over the past 12 months. Involving patients, service users, their carers and our partners in all that we do has become an integral part of our culture and everyday thinking. In order to embrace the broad perspective, we actively listen to people from all parts of the community, with equality and diversity as the golden thread woven throughout the patient and carer experience agenda. There is an immense wealth of knowledge that we can access from our patient service users and carers to help us with our improvement journey and transformation plans. The report also provides an overview of the complaints and feedback for the 12-month period. Analysis of the themes from complaints and concerns is used to identify areas for learning to improve patient experience. The Patient and Care Experience Strategy includes 12 priorities, all of which align to the Trust's 6 organisational goals and are the focus for the Trust's 5-year Patient and Carer Experience Plan. Here's what we've been doing over the past year. We continue to host regular patient and carer experience forums to enable patients, service users, carers, staff and partner organisations to be actively engaged with the Trust. April saw the introduction of our Carers Involvement Forum, which has strengthened our approach to involving carers, families and loved ones in Trust activities. We continue to support the Armed Forces Covenant and have launched a new champion called the Armed Forces Community Navigator. Staff who have a passion for advocating and championing the needs of serving personnel, veterans and their families are taking on this extremely valuable responsibility to enhance their job role and support their team. This year saw the introduction of the Humber Youth Action Group, which has been developed to bring together young people between the ages of 11 and 25 to get involved in Trust activities. The Trust has been working with young people to co-produce the design of the group, from creating the vision to developing the ways of working. The young people are developing an understanding of our children's and young people's services in the Trust and are starting to be active participants in improving and shaping these services. We now have over 20 young people involved in the Humber Youth Action Group. On the 1st of March 2022, 3 initiatives were launched, including the Panel Volunteer Initiative to support the organisation to employ the right staff by including patients, service users and carers on interview panels. The Patient and Carer Experience Training Programme, where individuals are now able to access several training resources to develop their knowledge when getting involved in Trust activities. And the Making Every Member Count initiative, where the Trust is delivering a standardised approach to make every member count when individuals are getting involved in Trust activities. Work is in progress to refresh existing demographical data templates on our IT systems. This will deliver a strengthened approach to identify who our wider communities are, to enable us to engage and involve them so that their voices are heard to inform service redesign and improvements. The Trust has developed a co-production stamp to demonstrate the work that has been co-produced in partnership with patients, service users and carers. This is a great way to add value and recognition to the hard work and support that goes into co-produced work. The Trust has a co-production stamp quarterly draw for all teams. Every time the co-production stamp is approved, the team is entered into the draw and the winner is randomly selected at the Trust Staff Champion of Patient Experience Forum, where they can win a £25 voucher. During the past year, the Trust has responded to a total of 535 complaints. 235 of these are formal complaints and 300 are informal complaints. For the same period last year, the Trust responded to a total of 344 complaints. 133 were formal complaints and 161 were informal complaints. On comparing the 2 years, there has been an overall increase of 102 formal complaints and 89 informal complaints. This is due to the restrictions lifting regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, and the Trust has returned to the expected level of complaints. Of the 235 formal complaints, 37, 16% were upheld. 68 complaints, 29%, were partly upheld, and 130 complaints, 55%, were not upheld. For the previous year, the Trust responded to 133 formal complaints, of which 19 were upheld, 14%, 42 were partly upheld, 32%, and 71 were not upheld, 54%. Key themes for complaints are patient care and communication. Patients, service users, carers and families sometimes compliment our staff, offering their gratitude and thanks for the wonderful service they provide. The Trust received 304 compliments for the period 1st of April 21 to 31st of March 22, which compares to 212 compliments received for the same period the previous year. So what next? We realise that the best way to improve quality in an organisation is by finding out what patients, service users and carers say through their lived experiences. During 22-23, we will continue to work together in partnership with our patients, service users, carers, staff and partner organisations to develop a plan to involve and engage everyone in Trust activities for the next 5 years from 2023 to 2028. There will be several ways in which individuals will be able to have their say to inform the next chapter of patient and care involvement and engagement across all of our services to really make a difference. For more information or to receive a copy of this full annual report, please contact the Patient Experience team.
A member is anyone. It can be you, it can be me.
And members are important because without that feedback, how do we grow? How does the Trust know what is happening, how people feel about the services that are being delivered? And being supported, very important. A positive input is what I would suggest we should be looking for.
We need members to ensure that we've got the voice of the people. So if you're out there and you're somebody with health inequality, if you're a carer, if you're the guardian of a child, or the parent of a child with any kind of health inequalities, or even if you're lucky enough to be healthy, you can have a voice in planning what the future is, how to enable you to keep healthy, or if your health fails, what you're going to do and what services you're going to need, and help us to design the future.
A member can do as much or as little as they want to do. There isn't anything that they have to do, but we would encourage them to be involved as much as they would like to be involved.
How you would start your engagement probably would be to go to the members' meeting, which is an annual event where people come together with what they call stakeholders, people who have a stake in the services that are being delivered by the Trust. That will give you a very clear introduction to how it works. In order for you to align yourself with what you would want to engage with through the patient and carer experience.
I think being a member is very important for me. It gives me the opportunity to take part in the development of the organization and its performance of the organization, and it keeps me close in touch, which is all for the good of the community, for the good of the patient and people as a whole.
I've been a member since the Trust was formed, and for me it's been invaluable, not just in my professional life but in my personal life, when family members have had hiccups in their life or health inequalities. Recently an auntie was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and this was post-COVID, and it was a very, very difficult time, but I was able to share information about what was available and support the rest of my family in connecting with the correct services. For me, that felt like I was doing something, and for them, they felt confident in approaching the services and receiving those services.
Well, I feel I have influence as a member because, after all, this is a service for the community. What's more important than your health? How can you ensure that people understand what those needs are? You can do that through being a member.
My advice will be not delay at all and become a member as soon as possible and shape the organization, and so go for it.
If you're thinking about becoming a member, it opens up a whole new world to you, because not only have you got the advice, the support and information that you get via Humber people. As I said, you've got opportunities to become involved in discussions. You have your governors that support you, but actually as a member you have the opportunity to put yourself forward as an elected governor, and also volunteering opportunities, an absolute myriad of reasons to become a volunteer.
For anyone who's thinking about becoming a member, I would say go for it. Be it that you're young or old, we have a vast age range. Take me, for instance. You don't have to be any specific age. It's about having that willingness to come to the meetings, listen to the meetings. We don't even come now, we listen on Zoom. You can listen if you wish, or you can say nothing. See what suits you, see what fits you, see what you would like to become involved in.
If you're thinking of becoming a member, which I hope if you're listening here, you are, then go on the website, click on into the section around membership and fill in a form. And from there, you will be brought into, hopefully, the next annual meeting of members and further initiatives for member involvement.
Humber Teaching NHS Foundation Trust, and it's so lovely to be here in person. It's literally just over a year since I started in this role, and last year this meeting was all online. Unfortunately, and I didn't take it personally, the tech didn't work for me, so I ended up isolated in another virtual world, and I'm really glad Sam is here, our lead governor last year, who ably took over on that occasion. So physically being here is really great, and to those people that I have seen already, who I don't think I'm blanking you, because you are totally different to seeing you online in terms of reality. So we're all going to have to adjust to some of that, but it is really nice to see some people in person that I've had meetings with and chats online so far. So this is our annual members meeting, and of course it is something as a trust that we are obliged to do, but we welcome the opportunity to do it as well, because it is also an opportunity to talk about the last year, to hear what we've done, to hear from our governors, most importantly as well, about their involvement, engagement and their thoughts. But also I think it's just great having the sort of market stall as well as another opportunity to meet some of the people providing our very diverse and varied services across the trust. So welcome everybody. Now I'm really very pleased to have our guest speaker today, Dr. Amir Khan. Actually, Dr. Khan and I have actually got up very early in the morning together, and don't read anything into that, because over the summer he was doing one of his regular stints on Good Morning Britain, and it just so happened that I was on the show that morning as well. Unfortunately, we didn't meet in the green room. We were hustled in there at some god-awful time in the morning. I don't know how you do it, Amir. And unfortunately, we didn't get the chance to have a chat afterwards, because I was scooted off. He was back off on the train to Bradford and me to Doncaster. But so I was really pleased actually when I heard that, unconnected to that, Amir, that they'd invited you to be with us today to share some of your insights and experience as well. And so it's been great to have you here.
So without any further ado, Dr. Amir Khan, will you please come and join us? Thank you.
Hi. Thank you very much. I'm Amir. I'm a GP, full-time GP in Bradford. And I also do a few other bits and bobs. I write, I do TV stuff. And I'm hoping this clicker will work, because what I don't do very well is technology. So let's have a look. No. Is my presentation on? Let's hope so. Anyway, I'm going to start by thanking you all, really, for everything you guys do for the NHS and everything kind of around that, health and social care. Because I think that is the most important reason, is celebrating the work that we all do in kind of the NHS and social care. We never get to say that very often, are we? We're all so busy and working really hard. We never pause to think about the stuff that we have achieved. It's always about what we have to do after we've done this bit and what we have to do after that. And we never really pause to look at what we've achieved. But just going round the stalls here, there's some incredible stuff going on in Hull, which is really nice. And I'm going to take some of it back to Bradford, where I work. Oh, sorry. Hopefully you can hear me better now. Is that better? That's better, isn't it? Great. So hopefully you can hear me. I was told to stay there. I'm not very good at doing what I'm told. Right. Yeah, great. I'm in good company then. Okay. So, as I am going to start off with a little story, and it's about a show that I started off in, actually, GPs Behind Closed Doors. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it's a show on Channel 5. They haven't done it for a while now because of the pandemic, but before the pandemic, we had a group of TV people from London descend on our surgery in Bradford. And obviously there's a big difference between London and Bradford. And you can tell they were from London because they all arrived on those kind of fold-up bikes that you would never get in Bradford because you get run down within seconds. And they were all really nervous because when they arrived, they were shook by the driving in Bradford. And they never came on their bikes again. And so what happens in that show is they put cameras in our consulting room, so we don't know really what's going on. We just go on about our daily business as normal. So they have these little cameras that are fixed to shelves, to the ceiling, to get different angles. And then upstairs they took over our library and they turned it into this kind of, it looked like a spaceship, but it just had like television screens everywhere, and they could watch what everybody was doing in their rooms. And they would consent patients outside in the waiting area to see whether they would want to go on television or whether they want their consultations filmed. So we had nothing to do with that. We just had our normal lists of patients, and we didn't know who had consented and who hadn't, and they would just film what they would film. So they filmed for over a year at our practice. It was a long time because it was 42 episodes. And over that time, we got to know the crew really well. They were all very young, they were all very dynamic. To be honest, I was relieved because I was sick and tired of being the only young and dynamic person at my practice. So it was nice to have a bit of company. And so over time, like I said, we got to know them. So we thought, well, I thought we'd play a little prank on them. So I got one of my mates to come in and pose as a patient. They didn't know if he was out in the waiting room, and he told reception that he had a consultation with me. And he sat in the waiting area, and one of their researchers went over to consent him. Said, would you like to be on TV? And he pretended to be a bit shy, but eventually he said yes. And so he signed the form, and he came into my room. And because I knew he consented, they were filming and they were watching it upstairs. And there's also someone, which I think is fascinating, there's someone writing down everything we say in those rooms at all times, just writing word for word what we say. Anyway, so they watch it really closely. And he said to me, he was a lad I went to school with, and he said, Dr. Khan, it's a bit embarrassing. I've just come back from Malaga. I was like, oh yeah, I know what happens in Malaga. And he said, I've got a discharge down below. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Let's see. And I said, tell you what, give me a urine sample, and I'll dip it, and we'll see if there's anything going on. So off he trotted to the loo, but I'd given him a little urine pot with orange squashes, so he came back, and he gave me it, and I took the lid off. I went, okay, right, fair enough. Let's just test this then. And I just drank it. and then I said, yeah, definitely chlamydia. And it took them 3 days to come down to speak to me, because I was thinking, where are they? Why is nobody laughing at my joke? What's going on? And 3 days later, Becky, one of the producers, came down. She's like, oh yeah, I just need to talk to you about something. And I was like, what could you possibly want to talk to me about? She's like, there's just one consultation. I've got a few concerns about. heart attacks and strokes over the winter is because people can't afford to turn on the heatings. So their blood vessels constrict to try and conserve heat. That increases blood pressure over time. That increases your risk of a heart attack and stroke. So we've, all of this factors into what we're doing for our patients, but also those things are happening to us if we can't afford to heat our homes as well, because like I say, it affects us as much as anything. And we've got healthcare professionals using food banks, same as patients. It's a really tough time. All of this makes this an exceptionally difficult time to work in the NHS and look after our patients, but all the same things that are affecting our patients are affecting us and our mental health. So what can we do to help? Of course, if you're feeling really low, really down, and your mental health is affecting you on a day-to-day basis, it's stopping you doing the things that you would normally enjoy doing, you're having dark thoughts, you must speak to another healthcare professional and get the help that you need. But there are some things, is that the one? Yeah, that we can do. I hope. Yes, here we go. There are some things that we can all do to try and improve our own mental health. And I'm not going to focus 30 minutes 5 times a week. Oh, God, no. That sounds horrendous. We want to do stuff that we enjoy doing. So when I talk to my patients or colleagues about movement, it's, what do you enjoy doing? What types of movement do you enjoy doing? And kind of soften it and make it more enjoyable. Diet becomes nutrition for the same kind of reason. And that's really important right now because people can't afford to buy the right types of food that improve their health. At the moment, people are focused on just eating alone. But we do know a lot about movement and nutrition, so I'm not going to focus too much on that. I'm going to focus on the last two, sleep and nature. The good thing about these two things is they're free. They're out there for us to enjoy. Upstairs in the bedroom is great, and it has such good kind of healing properties. So in terms of, and it's all evidence-based, I know it sounds a bit woo-woo, but this is all properly evidence-based stuff that I'm going to talk to you about now. So what we can be doing for ourselves, what we can advise our patients to do, what we can advise our colleagues to do to try and better their health is to sleep more. So the studies suggest we should be getting 9 hours sleep a night. Now, who's got time for that? I haven't got time for that. So a compromise is between 7 and 8. 7 and 8 hours will get you some of the health benefits of sleep. So what are those health benefits? So sleep has loads of health benefits. One of the things it does is help consolidate memories and things that you've done that day or that week. So if you're preparing for exams or you've got an important work thing going on, getting a good night's sleep beforehand rather than cramming is better at consolidating those kind of learning events. It's also good for our emotional well-being. What we know, what studies have shown for sleep, is that it helps prevent labile emotions. So all those negative emotions that can build up, sleep can help reduce those, and it has a positive impact on your positive emotions. So happiness, laughter, all of those things kind of go up with sleep. Now, sleep's really important for mood as well. So the kind of the neurochemicals or the brain chemicals that affect our mood, things like serotonin and dopamine, sleep does have an important part to play on them. And what studies have shown, again, is that people who consistently get less than 6 hours of sleep a night are 5 times more likely to suffer from depression, 3 times more likely to suffer from anxiety, because it does affect those kind of things. And we've all been cranky, haven't we, when we haven't had a good night's sleep. If you work nights, my God, it's horrendous. And we see the short-term effects of poor sleep or shift work, but the long-term effects can have real issues, particularly to our physical health. Poor sleep can affect our blood pressure. So when we sleep, our heart rate drops, our cortisol, our stress hormone levels drop, and that helps reduce our blood pressure. And that gives our body a bit of a break from working as that pressure drops. So if you're awake for longer times in the day, your blood pressure is raised for a longer time of that day. And over time, that will put pressure on your heart. I'm a GP with a special interest in diabetes. I manage all our kind of our diabetic patients or people living with diabetes who are on injectable therapies. And insulin is really important. Insulin plays a huge part in the body rather than just manage our blood sugars. It helps control our immune system. It has a part to play in general inflammation. There's a role that it plays in cancer risk. It's really complex stuff. But sleep helps with insulin and blood sugar control. It's still being investigated, but what we do know about sleep is sleep. When you sleep, you produce less insulin, and that is less inflammation going on in the body. And that kind of micro-inflammation that builds up over time can increase the risk of things like heart attacks, strokes, high blood pressure, and cancer. So really, really important to get good sleep to manage blood sugars. And if you don't get enough sleep, you produce lots of your hunger hormones as well. So lots of us have kind of been out maybe for a night out. We don't get good quality sleep, and then we wake up and we're starving, aren't we? And part of that is probably the alcohol, because that will drop your blood sugars and you need something to combat that. But also the quality of sleep that you get plays a part, because your hunger hormones, which are leptin and ghrelin, go up when you haven't had enough sleep. So you crave things, and you crave things that are sugar rich and carb rich, and that again pushes your insulin levels up and causes issues long term. So get a good night's sleep. It will help you lose weight as well, because you won't have as much of those hunger hormones knocking about. And the other thing, how am I doing for time? I've lost track of time completely. Am I doing all right? Not so much. I'll hurry up. Okay, so the other thing, 2 minutes, oh my God, right. Okay, the other thing it does is help with your immune system. It boosts certain types of white blood cells as well, because for patients. And one of the things that they do is offer this green prescribing access to nature for people who will benefit from it. And nature has, in my opinion, but also science, really important, it has healing powers in terms of our mood. When we're out in nature, again, our cortisol levels drop, and our serotonin and dopamine levels go up, and our mood improves, our stress levels come down, our heart rate goes down. One of my favourite studies to read about nature is one about chemicals that plants give off. So it's not all plants, certain types of plants, but native plants in particular in the UK give off something called phytokines, and they produce them in huge amounts, and it's to help them fight infections and infestations. But because they produce them in such huge amounts, they release some of that into the air, and when we breathe it in, it stimulates our immune cells to produce something called killer cells, killer white cells, which are important in fighting off viruses. And there's a study going on in Japan now to look at whether that might help reduce cancer risk as well. But it's really important. Getting outdoors is really, really important. And getting out in natural light, we know about vitamin D, but also it helps with our sleep cycle. Getting exposed to natural light helps with our sleep cycle. So all of those things can be used alone in conjunction with conventional medical therapy, but really important for us and our patients. Oh, that's the end. Great. I did that in time, didn't I? I was going to finish with an anecdote, but I'm going to save that for But thank you very much. I think you could ask me questions if you want. Have I got time for questions? Great. Okay.
Thank you. Let's put our hands together.
Thank you.
So this is everybody's chance. I know you've had a chat with people on the market stores there. Questions for Dr. Khan? Anybody? Amir. Doff.
As Humber is a trust, a foundation trust, it undertakes a wide variety of things, and one of the things we've been doing is taking on GP surgeries. Yeah. So we've got some surgeries we've worked on for a while, and we're taking on some new ones. So what would your advice be, given that potentially we've got a clean sheet? What would be the absolute key things you would say that as a trust we should be seeking to do for our new GP surgeries?
So it's a really interesting question. So our practice is just in the process of merging with another smaller practice, and we've done that before as well. And what's important to us and that practice is, first of all, to ensure that anyone who works there already, their job is secure. And I think that reassurance is really important when you're taking over any kind of new organisation or merging with them. And then the key is to learn what they do well and what the patients like, and then things that can be improved. And that goes to patient consultation, as I'm sure you know, but also we talk to the staff around that. And we feel like we do a lot of things well, but we can learn from other practices as well. So we take that into account, and it's a big process, you know, meeting with their GP partners, with their other staff, learning from them, talking about what their issues are. So what is the biggest problem here? Often it's staffing. One of the problems we have in this practice that we're merging with is staffing. They can't recruit. So what can we do to help them recruit? And part of that is the training that we do, so trying to hold on to our GP trainees, but expanding out to look at widening the workforce. But not just widening the workforce for those practices, but widening access to people who work in the NHS. So it's fine to say we need more nurses and more physicians associates and OTs, but we've got to make sure that the right type of people get those jobs. And it can't just be academic people, it has to be people who understand the populations, and that it's a bigger piece of work in terms of, you know, looking at the backgrounds of people rather than the academic achievements and bringing in the right people. But I would say, and I think I've gone off on a tangent here, but I would say that understanding their challenges and what you can offer or work together is the key, but it often does come down to staffing.
Thank you, Dov. Any more questions? Can I ask one?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was really interesting what you said about the different people who can help us to keep well and feel well. And that's a big cultural shift, isn't it? Because, you know, I can remember a few years back, there was a debate in Parliament about, you know, everyone should have a named doctor. And you sort of understand why that's being said, but it almost fixes in people's minds that it is only that named doctor you should see.
Yes.
So how do we communicate better that family of skills, if you like, that are available not just at the practice, but are also connected to other services that we need to use, not just in health, but in local government and social care?
So I think the policymakers have a role to play in that, and ensuring that message gets out. I try and do a bit of it whenever I'm talking on anywhere really, because our workforce, our practice, you know, the nurse practitioners, just absolutely amazing. But I think, you know, now the way to communicate things are social media is really important, and getting the right voices out there about why certain people who and certain streams of clinicians are right for primary care. But also, I think what we've done in our practice, because again, it's a big MDT organisation. We send in every patient pack when they're newly registered patients. We have a little poster saying who's what and what they can do and why patients might see them. We've got that in our waiting room. If there's any challenge on the phone, which often can happen when a patient insists on seeing a GP, that GP is informed, and then we will bring that up with the patient if there's time. But it has to. There's got to be the kind of the umbrella response overall, but also individual tackling as well. Because when patients see these people, they come away really happy. It's that kind of that initial challenge of getting them to see them. But yeah, it's a multi-pronged approach, I would say.
Absolutely, and I'm having my cervical cancer screening on Friday. An advanced practitioner nurse is going to be doing that for me, and it's great to be able to do that. Mr. Khan, Mr. Khan, what am I saying? I've elevated you to a consultant. Kwame, please, no.
I know working in primary care and health can sometimes be like on the hamster wheel, and really can be very stressful. What are you doing in your practice to make sure that your colleagues and yourself are looking after yourself, and also linked with retention? What are you doing in order to the few that are still there, not running off the wall?
So we kind of had a big discussion about that about 6 or 7 years ago, about because we had a number of GPs leave our practice and other primary care clinicians, and what we've done to kind of combat that is make sure people's working weeks are varied. We encourage and support and pay for any specialist interest development within a clinician. So whether that's a GP or nurse, we've got nurse practitioners doing dermatology clinics and headache clinics and that kind of thing. We've got our physician associates. After a year of working with them, we sit down and say, right, what special interest do you want to develop? So we've got a mental health one, we've got a women's health one, and they go down and they work in a team within our organisation. So I think education is another passion that lots of people have, and giving them time away from the coalface to do and pursue those interests is really key, because core general practice on the coalface, as important as it is really hard. It's that hamster wheel, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. So having that variety, and often those services bringing income to the practice, so it's a win-win for everyone, is the key to keeping people. And we are really lucky now. We're fully staffed. We've got people wanting to work with us, and that is because we offer that kind of variety through the week.
Thanks very much, Amir, for your time today.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate you being with us, and we can have a sort of Humber Bradford connection going forward, which would be great.
They're not that different, the cities. They're not that different. I think they've got the same challenges.
Probably we can do a changing places. You can come and do a stint in one of ours, and we'll send someone over to you to do a stint in Bradford as well, or something like that. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
It's all being recorded, by the way. You've just signed up for that. Okay. Thank you so much. Can we show our appreciation for Amir? Thank you. Thank you so much. And next up, we have Michelle Moran, our Chief Executive. Michelle.
I'll use this one. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to use this mic. Apparently, we've got a bit of a mic problem, so can somebody just tell me if you can't hear me, which is very unusual because I've got quite a loud voice. What a fantastic way to start, and I thank Dr. Khan. And I must admit, I did have a bit of a giggle about a couple of things there. One, I am a Bradford girl, so I actually say Bradford properly. And the driving is absolutely real. And I learnt to drive in Bradford, so watch me on the road. And I did a very, very similar thing when I was training to be a nurse, but not with orange juice. The Mars bar. And I'll leave people and the nurses in the audience to figure that one out. I've probably said far too much already, but there you go. So anyway, thank you very much for everybody that's on stream. I'm hoping it's working really well, and thank you for everybody that's here today. And we did keep the numbers a little bit lower than we would normally, but that was obviously just due to the pandemic. But it is really great to see people in the flesh, as it were. So thank you. So I'm going to try and press these buttons and hope that they work. And it gives me great pleasure just to do a bit of a review of the year, but please have a look at the annual report. Please have a look at our website because it will give you all the information on there. I'm literally just going to do a very whistle-stop tour and a really quick flick through. So just to remind people that hopefully about who we are, because we're a very diverse organisation, we're a multi-speciality organisation, but we're also very successful, and that's due to the people in this room, the people watching, and our communities and everybody that we work with and for. We improve mental health, physical health, well-being, some of the things that Dr. Khan touched on, and a whole lot more. But we've got two real common things. I'm going to touch on the strategy later. One is about the health and well-being of our fabulous staff, who are unbelievable, but also patient safety and quality is at the heart of what we do. And I am a clinician by background and absolutely passionate about that. So our objective is to deliver outstanding care at all times. Whatever challenges and whatever we face, we will deliver and continue to deliver and aspire to deliver outstanding and fantastic care to all our communities. So this is the Trust Board, and it's my pleasure to work with such fantastic, dedicated and expert people that come from a wealth of background and knowledge. I'm not going to go through them individually. A lot of them are here today. It gives me great to welcome our new Executive Medical Director, Dr. Desiree Michael, was interim, but we've got Kwame now, so we have updated that picture, or we will do, so welcome Kwame. But there's a lot of experience on our Trust Board, and please do say hi to people who are in the audience. So I'm not going to do these too much because we are going to go on to our trust strategy, but and I've touched on a little bit already about our vision, mission and values and our strategic goals. But our mission, as I've said, is to continue to be that integrated provider organisation that's built upon teaching, but built upon being a really valued employer and employees within the organisation, but built on the most important thing, which are our values, which you'll see all over: caring, learning and growing. They are at the very heart of what we do. Caring for ourselves, which was quite interesting to hear the presentation from Dr. Khan about having to care for ourselves if we're going to care for others, but also caring for our colleagues. Learning when things don't go well, also learning when things do go well, but also to acknowledge that we are in a human a human situation, so things don't always go right. So it's how can we learn from that together and growing together as an organisation, but also as individuals and services. And our 6 strategic goals around patient safety, the people that we work with, our communities, our staff, and our wider integrated care system. I've put this on just to remind us that, and I mentioned very briefly, that we are a very diverse organisation. So the best thing to describe Humber is everything but acute services. We do work into the emergency department and the acute sector and on some of the wards, but we provide everything else out in the community, from GP surgeries to perinatal mental health to medium secure, health visiting, school nursing, the whole array of services, occupational therapy, art therapy, because we want to work and wrap round services around individuals and communities to help their health and well-being, which contributes to health, but also to their outcomes. So, the review of the year, COVID-19 was yet another year like no other. I think I said that last year. And I've had to say it again this year, because it has been a tremendously difficult year, and we will continue to work with the challenges that we face. And COVID hasn't gone away. We've actually just noticed a bit of an uptake in figures. So the infection and prevention control that we've had to do, the fact that we have had to have non-face-to-face visits within our general practice. We've now gone to face-to-face, but it has been adaptive that we've been, but we've also been, I think, at the real forefront of the work that we've done in relationship to that. We've done lots of digital innovation, and I don't just mean working on Microsoft Teams for meetings, but digital platforms for our service users and our patients, of which I'm getting some really positive feedback. So there's lots of things that we will learn from the pandemic and we will continue to do. We've done lateral flow tests by the thousands, and we'll continue to do that. And we are really proud of our COVID vaccination programme, and I thank the teams involved in that. We were really quick off the mark across everything with COVID, really, but certainly with our vaccination programme. And we'll continue to do that because we're starting our booster campaign this weekend for our staff as well, and we'll continue to do that for our patients in our inpatient units as well. So we were a local leader in the COVID-19 vaccinations. As I said earlier, staff health and well-being, staff are the real asset of the organisation, and we'll continue to support and work with our staff over the last year and continue. But it's about delivering really good quality services for our patients and our communities. So we have got an unbelievable team. Our team have been shortlisted for our recruitment process. I think we know that there are workforce challenges in the NHS, so recruitment has been key over the last year. We continue to get positive feedback on all our services. Yes, we've got some challenges which I'll come on to. And we do receive numerous compliments about our staff, which is great. And we continue to flag and monitor those. And our complaints have actually gone down slightly this year as opposed to last year. And if you remember, this is the review of last March to this April. But that's all been done by our volunteers. We've got a great volunteer sector who did a fantastic job in the COVID-19 programme. But alongside that, delivering hampers and water bottles, etc., to our patients and our staff over the past year. But also our governors, who do a great job working with their communities and their constituencies as well. And I thank them for their work that they do. And today is about celebrating being a governor as well. Health Stars is our trust charity that also did a lot over the last year in relationship to supporting our patients and our staff through the pandemic. And we've done a lot about research. I've mentioned digital platforms. I also chair the Clinical Research Network, and we've done a lot about agile working, but also about asking patients to be part of our research programmes as well. And we're quite a high-performing organisation in research, and we'll continue to do that this particular year. So we've supported our staff in numerous ways. We've had a celebration fund for staff over the last 12 months. We've had a celebration week. We've done a You're a Star fund. This is about developing our staff, but also thanking them for working within the COVID pandemic, but also just working in challenging situations as well. We've invested in occupational health in the musculoskeletal services. We've invested in staff restrooms as well, so they've got a place to go to have a cup of tea and a sit down during difficult shifts. We've also got a really active and vibrant ethnic minority diversity groups and networks that we're working with, both internally and externally, that look after not just our staff but our patients as well, with the diverse populations that we look after. We've done a lot of work during the year about promoting equality. All this is in our annual report, so it is online, so please have a look at it. I think it's a good read. You can dip in and out of it, but it will go into all this in a lot more detail. We've also will continue, and we've invested in psychological support. We've got apps that people can put on their phones. We've mentioned how important social media is and digital platforms. So we've invested a lot of money in digital technology to support staff's health and well-being over the last 12 months. And we will continue to do the flexible blended approach, which is more agile working. We were trying to get this in before COVID, and we've certainly managed during COVID over the last 12 months, and we will continue to do that. So lots of achievements in year, and I'm getting probably a hurry up, Michelle. Health and Safety Patient Awards. Again, this is about our patients. Everything that we do is about our patients and our communities. But it's great to be shortlisted for lots of awards, and they're on the screen now. Health Service Journal Awards for patient safety. We've had individual members of staff that have been shortlisted for their excellent work alongside departments as well. But we have to pull out on this slide the CAMHS inpatient unit. We've got people from CAMHS here. Inspire is a fantastic unit that's not far away from here, actually, at Walker Street, that was developed by children and young people themselves. And that was quite a risk, not a risk, but it was quite a difficult option to actually do, was to let everybody come together and listen and learn. But they helped us develop it, and that actually won an award this year for the Project of the Year for New Build, which is fantastic. They also won Clinical Team of the Year as well, which was great. Our HR department won lots of awards throughout the year, alongside being recognised for some of the work that they've been doing. So you can get the breadth of the work that we've done in what has been a really difficult year. We go on. I will come on to the challenges, because it isn't always. We have had some pressures. We've developed a new front door for services across our patch, which has been really successful. Did hit some turbulent times to start off with, but we worked through that, as you would imagine. We've got health trainers. We've got some health trainers here, but we've also done a really good work with fishermen, because we've got to remember we're on the coast. So we've done a really good project working with the local fishermen. We've put in a few free health lines, and we're also really proud of our work that we do with the voluntary sector, which increases our capacity, which increases the amount of services that we can provide for the communities that we serve. Hopefully a few people will have seen the Whitby celebration on Monday. It's probably still available online, and Doff was there where we planted an oak tree. But that was a completely regeneration of a hospital site. Again, during a pandemic, but it's made such a difference to people's lives up at Whitby. Modern, fresh facilities, and we're really proud to have opened that this year. And I've mentioned the health trainer service and the COVID-19 vaccination hub. Again, they're just a flavour. Again, it's all in the annual report. Hopefully people would have seen the lead provider, and that's quite a complicated term. It just means that we are now commissioning services from a speciality point of view for the community. And that's been a year now, which seems an enormously short amount of time, but that allows us to look at how we work closer together with our provider colleagues, but how we provide that pathway of care for our patients and our service users. I've mentioned funding about of research, which is a bit further down, but I haven't mentioned the 1.7 million for decarbonisation. Now, if you want any detail on the decarbonisation, Pete's in the audience, but it is a really important role, so I thank the team for that. We've mentioned Digital Aspirant, I've mentioned the research conference, but one of the things I will pull out is our Humber Youth Action Group. This is about working with our young people to help support our services and our organisation. We are a full age range service now, so we've got a youth action group together that are influencing the organisation and influencing the trust in what we do and how we provide services, and that will only go from strength to strength over the next 12 months. And fabulous, we think we've got some people in the audience. Our International Nursing Recruitment Programme really took off during the year, and it's a fantastic contribution, and that will continue to contribute fantastic experience to our workforce. So systems working in partnership, there was a massive reorganisation of the NHS during the latter part. It actually came in the beginning of this year, but we were really influential and worked really closely with our colleagues in helping support that new system, and more on that this time next year. But we are a key partner in those programs, and that took a lot of work during the year and will continue to do so. But that involved not just the provider collaborative from a commissioning perspective, but the provider landscape across the whole of Humber and North Yorkshire. So our performance, there are things that obviously that we can improve on, we'll continue to improve on, like access, waiting times. There are challenges, there continue to be challenges. We've made some inroads into those over the last 12 months, but they continue to be one of our major challenges, and we will continue to work with the services and the wider communities to improve access to our services and also waiting times. But our performance in relationship to 3-day follow-up, this is where we follow up patients when they've been discharged from an acute inpatient unit. And this is really clinically based. And I wanted to put it up because a lot of the statistics that we do all relate to patient care, but this one is built on research that says if you follow up a patient from discharge from a mental health inpatient unit within 3 days, they're less likely to commit suicide or self-harm. So we were one of the first trusts that started to do the 3-day follow-up, and I'm really pleased to say that we've maintained steady progress. Those of you in the audience that know me would know it should be 100%, but we're nearly getting there. But at least the performance is satisfactory, over satisfactory, and stable. We've mentioned friends and family because this is about what patients say. What patients say about our organisation is so important. I sign off every single complaint, so it's really important, but you'll see that that has been positive and continues to be stable again throughout this last year. And the other thing that's really important is our staff survey. 2 key factors: what our patients think of our services and what our staff think about our services, and they're the 2 main keys. Our staff survey did have a slight dip in some areas last year, but actually overall there was a slight improvement, and that was on the backdrop of an NHS that had dramatically declined. So we were actually one of the top performing organisations for the staff survey this year. More work to do. Absolutely more work to do, but some really positive, more than green shoots, really quite large branches, and we'll continue to develop those, again in conjunction with our staff. So I've mentioned staff being our greatest asset. We'll continue to work with them in relationship to the services that we provide. And remember, we do this, one, from a recruitment retention point of view, but also to deliver the best care. There is a real defined link between health and well-being of staff and outcomes for patients and patient care. So that's why we'll continue to work together on that. So opportunities and challenges. Our integrated system will be positive. It will also be a challenge over the next 12 months, but we'll continue to work through that and work with our partners to improve the delivery of services across Humber and North Yorkshire. We'll continue to work with COVID-19. It is still out there. We'll continue to adapt our practices and learn from what we've learned from COVID-19. But I think a couple of the main things for me this year will be the demand for services, and we'll continue to improve our access, working with partners, colleagues, voluntary sector, third sector, to increase the capacity of our services so that we increase our reach of services and make access a little bit easier across all our services. We'll continue with our nursing and medical and other recruitment processes for the next 12 months. And all that will be done under the honours of our fantastic organisation, which is Humber. So, hopefully that gives you a bit of a whistle stop. I think there's a video coming on. All of this information is available on our website. All of this information is available on our annual report. Please have a look at it. As I said, I do think it's quite an easy read to dip in and out of. Hope that gives you a bit of a whistle-stop tour of our services. And I think we've got a video that just will carry on. Do I press this button, Rachel? Can I sit down?
Well, that was brilliant, wasn't it? And when you come on after so many other people have, well, that's only Michelle, really. She said most of it already. So at risk, you'll find, of some of the things being repeated, I am the lead governor, you are the members, and this is your meeting. As the members, you elect us as your governors, and we are reporting back to you today about what we've done on your behalf. So we're ready and interested in the questions you've got for us, and this is our report back. We're trying to be accountable. So I'm going to cover what's the role of a governor, who we are, what have we actually done for you, and what we're planning to try and do for you in the future, and then give you a chance to ask us some questions. Now, at risk of not making things again too many times, I'm going to show a short animation that was made by a previous governor, and it does repeat some of the things that I'm sure said. So.
Hello, we're Humber Teaching NHS Foundation Trust, and we are a multi-speciality provider offering a wide range of health and social care services, from primary care, community mental health, through to substance misuse and learning disability services. Our vision is to be a leading provider of integrated health services, recognised for the care, compassion and commitment of our staff, and known as a great employer and a valued partner, and you could help. As well as our Trust Board who run the organisation, our Council of Governors are responsible for representing the interests of the Trust members and partner organisations. They do this by being part of a team of governors who together deliver a number of duties. You don't have to have any particular qualifications to become a governor, just a real commitment to wanting the best for your community and a willingness to work with the Trust for patients, carers and staff. The work of the governors is really valued at the Trust, and governors are supported in several ways to deliver their duties. Our Council of Voluntary Governors is split into constituencies, including elected public governors made up of people from Hull, the East Riding of Yorkshire, wider Yorkshire, Humber and Whitby. We also have elected service user and carer governors, as well as elected staff governors and appointed governors. Here is a brief snapshot of our duties. If you want to know more, visit www.humber.nhs.uk or contact our membership office on 01482 389 132 to discuss what's involved or to find out about upcoming elections.
Thank you very much. So, who are our governors? And because this is the members' meeting and you should see who they are, I am going to go through the list of names, if that's all right. And if those people who are present as governors would be willing to wave their hand, you can have a good look round and see who's here. So we've got a new Governor Ruth Marsden, who's not here. Anthony Douglas, are you here? No. John Cunnington, who's been here for some time. Sue Cooper's here. Brian Swallow, who's a new governor. Helena Spencer, Patrick Hargreaves, who's a new governor, Tim Durkin, who's not here today but has and represents Yorkshire and Humber, myself as the Whitby governor. We've got Anthony Hoof, who's a new governor for the patient carer experience, and also Marilyn Foster. We have some excellent governors who also join us from our partner organisations. We've got Andy Barber from the voluntary sector, Councillor Chambers from Hull City, Jonathan Henderson from the Fire Service, who is here. Welcome, Jonathan. Jackie White from Hull University, who's also here. Superintendent Jenny Bristow from Humberside Police. And Councillor Abram from East Riding of North Yorkshire. Now, I do feel it's really important. Thank you for all of that. And those people are here. We've got our ears open and we're listening. And I'm Doff Pollard from Whitby. We've got some other new staff. We've got some staff governors. We've got Sharon Nobbs, William Taylor, Craig Enderby. Craig's here. Nice to see. Joanne Gardner, who's a new governor, and Tom Nicklin. So there's quite a few of us who are trying to do what we can to support you, and we're all ears listening. But I do particularly want to take this opportunity to thank those people who have been governors and who have given us fantastic service, but who have left. And I want to acknowledge Sam Mustafa, who was the lead governor last year, Hugh Jones, who left last year, Anne Gorman, who was a long-standing staff governor, Jean Hart, who's on the video about the patient and care experience, Eric Bennett, who did a full stint. We were sorry to see Paul McCourt go, but we are delighted to welcome Jonathan. And Paul McCourt from the Fire Service made very dedicated contributions to the governors, as did Gwen Lunn from Hull City Council, and Nigel Wilkinson from the East Riding. So I think it is very important that we're here for you, and we want to acknowledge those people who have actually done all that work with us. But what do we do? What have we actually been up to? So one of our responsibilities, as you saw from our animation, is we do have the responsibility to make appointments. And even though you've all heard that Caroline Flint has been here, it is the responsibility of the members to appoint the new chair. And so on that basis, I would like to formally welcome you as the appointment of the governors into this position. So welcome, and we're delighted that you're with us. And we'd also like to thank Sharon Mays, who was with us before, but thank you and welcome. I think you've got your feet under the table now. We're involved in making the appointments for the NEDs. Now, NEDs are, I never knew what a NED was, it was really difficult. They're non-executive directors. And the way it works is that as governors, we're involved in appointing those people who have a great deal more knowledge and experience than we have. And our role is to work with our NEDs to be able to ensure that we hold the executive to account. I don't actually know the technical terms for doing all the right things, but it's up to me to work through the chair and the NEDs to do that. So I would particularly like to acknowledge the people who weren't on Michelle's list, who left, who are Mike Cook and Peter Barron. And because the governors get involved in making the appointments, I would particularly like to welcome Stuart McKinnon-Evans and Philip Earnshaw as new NEDs who work with the governors. And I'd also like to welcome Hanif Malik, who is an associate working with us. So we're quite a big team, and we have a lot of expertise to take on that public role that makes us different from being part of the NHS. As a foundation trust, we have a responsibility to have this public accountability, and we are that public accountability with that support. So to actually deliver on our jobs, we do have two committees. One of them is the Appointments, Terms and Conditions Committee that Sue Cooper chairs. And we have made those appointments, and we've worked through holding our governors to account. And we have generally tried to be extremely responsible in appraising the work of our NEDs, which was a real surprise to me when I came. How do I understand how effective the NEDs have been on our behalf? And it's all a massive learning process for us to be able to ensure that we absolutely get the best we can from the Trust. So as governors, we have 4 executive meetings, 4 board meetings, Board of Governors meetings, and then we have development sessions, and that's where we really have the opportunity to get to the nitty-gritty with our NEDs. And we've tried, through having another committee, to look at how we can engage with members. And we really, really need to hear from the members of the public. And our role, particularly moving forward in the new arrangements with the ICS, is we have to find ways of representing the public. It's the views of the public that we as governors pick up and then channel through the NEDs into those questions. So we support and engage in Humber People, which is the newspaper the magazine you can pick up at our stand where Katie is, and she can answer all your questions and help you become a governor if you want. And we've also introduced an e-newsletter. So we've been quite active in trying to do those things, and through the development sessions we've been able to pick up on particular issues and look at them in a lot more detail. And this is to some extent where I do definitely repeat what Michelle said. Everything that we've done has been in that climate of COVID. We've had a big turnover of governors, and we've got quite a few governor vacancies. So if any of you have been inspired to want to join us, we've got 2 vacancies in Hull. We've got 1 vacancy in the East Riding. We've got 1 vacancy in the wider Yorkshire and Humber, and we've got 1 staff governor. And the election nominations are open from the 27th of September, and they must be completed and returned by the 25th of October. So we're very, very keen to have a full complement of governors, and I do hope that you will think about joining us. So, where are we going in the future? I want to, at this point, acknowledge the work of the executive and the chief executive. And obviously, as being the governor from Whitby, I have to particularly acknowledge the excellent delivery of the hospital and really compliment Michelle on the fantastic leadership she's provided with the executive team to delivering a huge amount of excellence. And I know in the background they'll go, but the governors, they just nitpick about stuff. We're really proud of what you do. Really, really proud of what you do. And we appreciate the real commitment and openness that you've got to having those conversations with you. We really want to celebrate all of the things that you've achieved. We know as governors that all of that change that Michelle has talked about is really challenging. And as governors, we really do need to look at how we can represent the interests of the public in this changing environment. And we want to find ways that we continue to have meaningful exchanges. So I think it's really important that you should... Is Katie here to put her hand up? There she is. Katie's over there. She's our excellent secretary supporting the governors. We're really open to wanting to have conversations. We wanting to have new governors. We're wanting you to get in touch with us and say, we want someone to come and talk about this. We're concerned about this. So you can always contact us as governors through Katie. Yes, and somebody's... Right. So I want to finish by saying, have you got any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Doff. So you've now got another Doff. So my name's Pete, and I'm the Director of Finance here at the Trust. And apologies for the presentation title. Ordinarily, I'd be stood in front of you today and presenting the annual accounts, but due to a quirk with our audit of the local government pension scheme, we've not yet laid our accounts before Parliament, so they'll be presented to the Council of Governors later in the year. So before I start, I could just say it's lovely to be back in the room and see so many people here. I mean, I maybe shouldn't say this, but I think it's probably the biggest crowd I've seen at the MKM. So, you know, if you know, you know, and I'll stop there. So, okay, Michelle said it, and it's the same for the finance community. 2022 was like no other year for the NHS, particularly in the finance. So normal contracting arrangements were ceased between commissioners and providers, and we operated under what was known as a block funding regime. So therefore, we got a block allocation. We were asked to live within it. As part of that, we also got a block allocation for COVID. So it's slightly different to the year before, where we could actually claim our COVID expenditure. I think the government kind of put the thumb screws on a little bit and said, you've got an allocation for COVID, you've got to live within it. For us, that was £9 million last year, so a significant sum still, but one that we had to live within. And for the first time in my career, our financial planning was split into two halves of the year. So never before have I done that. So we did H1, which was the first 6 months of the year. And to be honest, I think those plans were signed off in June or July, so you can work the maths out on that one. And then H2 saw a continuation where we had a full year planning target. And I'm really pleased to stand in front of you today. Michelle touched on it on her slide. But in the midst of all that planning chaos, we went live with the Lead Provider Collaborative. So we've now been live with that for coming up to 12 months. We've made some fantastic achievements. And as part of that, that saw us take on 55 million full year, 27 million half year of commissioning responsibilities. So not an insignificant sum for an organisation of our size. So, as I said, an unusual year, but one I think we can be proud of from a finance community. And I'm incredibly proud to be stood in front of you today and just mention some of these achievements. So as an organisation, again, we hit our financial control total for the year, and that was to deliver a break-even plan. To do that, we delivered 1.8 million of efficiency savings, and all of those were recurrent in nature. So in the midst of the pandemic, the organisation continued to achieve efficiency targets, which perhaps I shouldn't say this, I might get into trouble, but I know that other organisations across the NHS were struggling with efficiency programmes during the pandemic. We continued to maintain that focus. We ended the year in a strong cash position, so we had £29 million in the bank at the end of the year. Yeah, I remember sitting in front of you guys probably 5 years ago, we had 6 million. So again, what we've done over, on this journey is amazing. As part of that, we also settled our loans. So as an organisation, we used to have free finance loans outstanding for previous capital programmes. We took the opportunity in here to settle those loans. So we're one of the few trusts in Yorkshire and Humber to have no debt on our balance sheet, which is really positive. And in here, we invested in just over 9.5 million on improving our estate and digital infrastructure, which I will come on to in a little while. And we paid our suppliers on time. There's been a big push nationally to make sure you pay suppliers on time. We paid 91% of our suppliers on time in terms of the value of the invoice. It's a wee bit less on volume, but that tends to be because it's normally the smaller invoices that have more queries on them, believe it or not. And we completed our accounts on a going concern basis. So what that actually means is that as an organisation, we've tested our financial sustainability, and we believe we've got the resources in place to continue into the foreseeable future. So some headline figures, you'll see these in the accounts when they're published, but they're in public board papers anyway, so I'm not telling you all a secret. So for the year, our turnover or our income total just less than 209 million. So that's an increase from the previous year's 178, and that is primarily the impact of the Specialist Lead Provider Collaborative going live. Our expenditure total 214, so again, an increase from the previous year and reflects the purchasing of healthcare from the providers of those services we're now responsible for. The eagle-eyed among you will see that our expenditure exceeded our income, so we ended the year with a deficit, but that was purely to do with technical adjustments in our accounts, primarily the valuation of our estate, which was valued down due to the market conditions, and the valuation of the local government pension scheme, which comes from an actuary, which I won't even attempt to explain how that works, because my mind boggles completely. And I said it before, but I'm proud to say it again. At the end of the year, our borrowing was nil. No outstanding debt on our balance sheet, so that's a reduction from the previous year. So what do we spend our money on? As you'd expect, staff. Staff are our biggest asset, staff are our biggest investment. Roughly 65% of our expenditure now goes on staff. The next biggest one is now purchasing of healthcare, and that's reflective of the Lead Provider Collaborative arrangements, where we're now responsible for commissioning and purchasing healthcare from both NHS and independent sector organisations. Property costs is the next biggest expenditure for us. We operate from roughly 85 sites across the Humber and North Yorkshire area, obviously those sites we have to pay rates, rent, we clean them, we have depreciation. So that's the next significant spend. And then the other two I won't dwell on are supplies and services and other costs, which are things like finance, interest, etc. So I mentioned earlier that we invested just over £9.5 million in capital programme last year, and that was to improve the services and the environment for our patients, our staff and our visitors. So the three on the slide in front of you, we are the host for the Yorkshire and Humber Care Record. That's a shared care record platform that currently is now being opened to other areas of the country. So it started off as Yorkshire and Humber. We've now got Leicestershire, we've now got Nottinghamshire, and we as a trust host that. And it's, I think I might have said this last year on Teams from memory, but 25 years ago I joined the NHS and they were talking about shared care records. I'm sat here, 25 years ago I joined local government and they were talking about shared care records. This feels like the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of having some shared care information. We spent just shy of £2.5 million on our digital infrastructure, so that's purchase of hardware, invested in our health and social care network, invested in the infrastructure in our estate, and that's to run the digital platforms Michelle alluded to in her presentation. And we spent £5.5 million improving our estate. You know, and again, £5.5 million is a significant sum for a trust of our size. Some of the key things we actually invested in last year, and I've just picked out four, there are numerous. So we increased our capacity for older people mental health beds. We were successful in a bid to government for capital resource that allowed us to put 5 bedrooms back in at Maester Court, stops patient going out of area, care close to home. All the evidence tells you that it's a shorter pathway through inpatient care, and that's coming from an accountant, by the way. We refurbished Pine View, which is one of our low secure units. We ran a programme award refurbishment. We do have a longer term plan and vision for our inpatient estate, but obviously that's dependent on access to capital. So as an exec team, we decided that the time was right to put some investment in our estate within the constraints of what we could do. And we also invested in our staff and health wellbeing areas. There were a couple up there that you can see at the bottom of the slide, and that was done directly in relation to our staff survey results, where our staff and our lowest score was staff had a place to rest at work. So for anybody in the audience or anybody who's watching online, if you think we don't listen to the staff survey or we don't take it seriously, for me that's, I can't think of the best analogy, that's us taking action on the results that are presented to us. And finally, you'll be pleased to know this is my last slide because I'm kind of getting a look and I said I would be quick. So looking forward to 22-23, our new financial regime is here to stay. So block allocations will continue and those resources are now being directed by the new infrastructure of integrated care boards. For this financial year, that gives us a target of a break-even, and those of you that have read our public board papers will see we have a break-even plan and we are delivering to that plan as I sit here today. We've had a fixed allocation for COVID. It was reduced this year. All intent and purposes it will be reduced next year and the government will run that down. Those of you will see in the press, you know, obviously it's interesting the ballot, but the actual pay award funding that came out, the pay award that was announced was more expensive than the funding that was allocated for the pay award. So we was planning on a 2% pay award uplift. Nationally, it's modelled at about 3.5%. You know, I'm not going to get into the politics of cost of living and everything, but that funding has been secured centrally through reduction in central digital programmes. And finally, what we're starting to see is non-pay inflationary pressures. I mentioned earlier we spent £20 million on our estate. We all know with the cost of living crisis and energy, prices are going up, and that will affect us as much as it would the public. So I think that's my last slide, and I think I'm handing over to Michelle for the strategy. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I am just conscious of time, so I will whiz through this, but hopefully people have had a chance to have a look at the presentation that was out just before, but it was also be there. But during all that, what we did this year is we took a real look at our trust strategy. And I thank Sarah, who is with us, and you know, who led this process. And this was on the backdrop of the pandemic, etc. We do refresh our strategy every year, but what we wanted to do this year, because 22 it actually ran out, was do a really big piece of work around really looking at where we wanted to be, what we wanted to be as an organisation. So we did a really, well, Sarah and others did a really detailed piece of work around listening to internal, external stakeholders, and we have produced the Trust Strategy 22-27. which is in front of you. So you'll see the timeline there, and we wanted to do it throughout a year because we wanted to make sure that it was a complete overhaul and review. There are still some things that are the same. The values, people understand the values and are working through the values, so we didn't want to change that too much, but we wanted to have a real look at the shape and the form of the organisation, and I thank everybody that was involved in that. And as you will see, there was lots of engaging and listening events. There was over 30 engagement events, a lot of which were online because we were working online due to the pandemic, but 487 attendance. I mean, the figures speak for themselves. They are huge figures and huge engagement across all the sectors. And I'll leave these, and we will put the slides on the website so you can have a look at some of the things that people said about our partnership and what we did about it. So, for example, listen to frontline staff before making any changes. So we were committed to looking to do that and committed to working towards reducing waiting times and co-producing. And one of the things the organisation is really proud of and wants to continue is our co-production with our service users, our lived experience, and our communities, because we are a community together. And I think this strategy goes some way to demonstrating that. So I'm not going to mention this because we've mentioned it before. So we are still a multi-speciality provider with a wide-ranging portfolio covering a very large geographical patch. But we are passionate, and we use the words rightly. I'm passionate. We are passionate about using high-quality, evidence-based research to facilitate our services and what we actually provide to carers around innovation and development. So you'll see that the circle there, and it is in the strategy, and central to that is about our care and learning and growing, but also about addressing health inequalities. Because one of the things the organisation is, it's an anchor organisation, which means we want to work with the local population for employment. One of the things when we built Inspire was we looked to the local community to staff Inspire as much as we possibly could. So it's building things that in that way as well. So we want to. I did say outstanding plus, but they've taken the plus off. Because we want to be outstanding. I think we're outstanding already, but I think we want to be better than that. So, but we do want to, and it's not just about a rating, it's about delivering that service and feeling that and being part of that community to do that. We want to commit to support our workforce. Co-production is at the heart and the quality of what we've got. You'll see our co-production stamp on the majority of things that we produce now. But we also want to play a central role in partnerships. We're key within the integrated care system. We want to be an integrated care provider. We want to work with the system as well. So there is a short video that we're going to play that takes you through that strategy. Please pick up a copy on the way out. Please have a look at the website. But thank you sincerely to Sarah and others who've made this journey possible. And this will set out the next journey for the next few years. Our strategy is an important statement of who we are, what we do, and why it matters. It describes the building blocks we will put in place to grow, innovate services which meet the needs of our patients, service users, families and communities.
We're proud to deliver services to people across their life course, working with communities in the Humber and North Yorkshire.
Patients are at the heart of everything we do as we deliver safe, patient-centred care across mental health, forensic services, community services, primary care and services for children, young people and for people with learning disabilities and autism.
Our ambition is to achieve a CQC rating of outstanding overall and to improve access to our services. We are passionate about learning from patient experiences and the research carried out by teams with the trust to develop services for the future.
Through the Humber Youth Action Group, we're involved in shaping health and care services for young people and sharing positive health messages. We get to know the people that work in health and make sure that the services are right for young people.
We put a recovery focus at the heart of our care. This means we deliver care and build people's strengths and help them to achieve the goals that are important to them.
Delivering our ambitions for outstanding care is only possible through collaboration. The NHS is changing, and we are one of the organisations leading that change. As a key part of the Humber and North Yorkshire Health and Care Partnership, we're working together to deliver care in the right place at the right time, solving complex problems like workforce and digital technology.
We're proud to be an anchor institution working in partnership with all our communities. Tackling health inequalities is an essential part of supporting these communities to thrive. To do this, we need to truly listen to people to understand their unique challenges.
To achieve our aims, our trust needs to be efficient and sustainable, and our staff need to be empowered to make change happen.
We strive to attract, recruit and retain the best people to be part of our team at Humber. We support our workforce to thrive and to reach their potential, so they're happy and proud to work for Humber.
We are creating environmentally sustainable and clinically effective environments which support our patients on their journey to recovery.
We design digital solutions around our people's needs to ensure that nobody is excluded.
We are building on our past and investing in our future. We do hope that you will come with us on our journey.
Well, I thought that was great, and I know such a lot of work's been done on the trust strategy, and as Michelle said, it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's in some ways taking the sort of the work that's been done to combine all the identification of our values of an organisation and really rebooting it for the next few years. So thanks to everybody who's been part of that. So. Dov mentioned earlier about questions, Q&A, so now is a time for your questions, and they might be to Michelle, they might be to Pete, having done a sterling job there, and it could be to Dov as well, but welcome any questions from you. Anybody got one? Don't leave me hanging, please.
I've got a couple from the live stream, if that helps.
Brilliant, thank you, Rachel.
They'd like to know what was your proudest moment. That's for anyone who's on the panel today. Proudest moment from the past year.
I don't know, all of it really. I think Whitby. I think the developments at Whitby, considering it was done in the space of a pandemic as well, it was really, really fantastic to see that develop and materialise. But and we'll pass over to Doff. I'm not probably say Whitby as well, but
yes, it's been a long, hard journey, and I think the thing that's been most important for me about the Whitby experience has been seeing the partnership work. So I did see it before Humber got involved in it, and it has been a real partnership between the CCGs, between Humber who've driven it, and Property Services who've delivered the actual build. And so it was really exciting that we actually had the formal opening on Monday, and I think we can all be really proud of all of the work that was achieved.
Can I also just ask Lynn as well, our Chief Operating Officer and Deputy Chief Exec, because I think obviously Lynn's done a lot of work, well, an awful lot of work. So what are you proud of?
It's very difficult, isn't it, to pick one particular area. I would say from my point of view, it's really about being proud of our staff who, as we've discussed already in the presentations, have continued to work under, significant system pressures. And I think Amir Khan, if he was still here, set those out quite beautifully. So I'm going to congratulate and be proud of all of our staff who continue to do their utmost.
I will just add one more thing, because I always said, and just one more thing, and it wasn't slightly within this year of review, but I think welcoming the discipline service from Hull to join our family was really proud for me as well. So, but I'll pick that up next year probably.
Fantastic. Rachel, any other questions from the live stream?
Yes, the other question was challenges looking ahead. We're already some way into the next year, but what are we already experiencing, and what are we looking that we think might be a challenge when we report back?
Ooh, Michelle, you start. Do you want to start?
Really. I think obviously financial is going to be really quite difficult next year with the financial just the financial streams that are coming through and coming down will make it difficult. But I suppose we've touched on it. It's about workforce. It's about that continued to develop workforce, support our workforce. You've heard the national pressures, and we've got such diverse services as well, and such specialist services that brings challenges, unique challenges to workforce. And also we've mentioned Whitby, etc. They also bring even more challenges in relationship to workforce because of having to live and be in the area. So I think for me, it is about that. And also what I touched on in relationship to the challenges this year, it's continuing that in relationship to demand capacity. So there would be the few for me, the money, the workforce, and the rise in demand and capacity, and the growing waiting lists, etc. And I think to some extent the challenges of a new system embedding when we're in that transition period is always really complicated and difficult. So, but Pete, would you want to add anything there?
I'll stand up. I think you've covered most of it, Michelle. I guess what we don't know is what 23-24 is going to look like. 22-23 is already looking challenging. So when you look across the health partnership, you can see financial deviation from plan, variances occurring, and obviously that's got to be recovered to hit this year's financial planning target. This year's financial plans were predicated on a hell of a lot of non-recurrent items to get us into a balanced financial plan. So those non-recurrent items disappear next year. So, I don't want to sound really negative, but it does feel like we're going to be heading to really difficult charted waters for next year's financial plan, because there'll be an efficiency ask. What will the government do? They've already rescinded the health and social care levy that was coming to support the services we provide. So, I haven't got a crystal ball, but I would say we're going to be heading into quite high efficiency asks in the coming years.
Thanks very much, Pete. Any more, Rachel?
Yeah, just one more. About supporting staff, how are we looking to support our staff in the year ahead? Everyone knows it's looking to be a challenging time. So there's a question there about what we're going to do to support our teams.
I would just say, before I pass on to Michelle here for maybe some more of the details about what we're doing going forward, is I've just been so impressed since I've been involved in the Trust about how much thought goes into our staff's well-being and what their needs are. And, there's always something really practical to support staff, but also some other imaginative ways to say thank you as well. And, and that's an ongoing, that never stops and starts, does it, Michelle? It continues. And that's something we've discussed at board about the cost of living. I know when you and I were in Scarborough not so long ago, we were talking to some of our community-based staff about the costs of travel, getting to see our patients as well. And I think it's something we're all very mindful of, and it's but at the same time, despite the challenges, I know it's something the Trust takes hugely seriously for the reasons Pete said earlier. The reason why we spend the majority of our money on staff is because they are the most important element of what we do. Michelle?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, just to build on what Caroline said and what we said already, I think it's just to continue those health and well-being services that we've invested in, the musculoskeletal services, the emotional well-being service, the digital access to apps. We're looking at a lot of work we've already just now got, and if it's quite innovative, but where we've got a well-being service now for staff, and some of them are here today doing a great job, and that's about bespoke offerings for staff, looking after their individual health and well-being in relationship to things that really Dr. Khan said right at the beginning about how we can get enough sleep, how we can use nature more, how we can do nutrition more, etc., even with busy lives as well. So we've got a dedicated service now that we employ people that we're going to go around and to do that. And I'll pass on to Lynn, because Lynn chairs the the well-being board of staff, which picks that up. But so we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to look at how we support staff through the really difficult cost of living. With obviously we've done a lot around mileage, car parking. We've got support vehicles in place. We've got access to things like VivUp, which is a really good service where you can get electronic products and things. So there's a whole heap of things that we'll continue to do. But importantly, it's about that development of staff as well. So when staff come to us, we'll continue to invest in their development and support them through our Proud programme, which is investing in new value in you, which gives them access to development courses, other opportunities that the NHS is fantastic for. It's a great organisation to do different things. We do where you can have a job role swap, you can do different things, you can get secondments, etc. So we'll look at it in different ways to try and support our staff as much as we can, and well as growing our own staff and pipelines as well, and working with local communities about how we can support really disadvantaged family come into the NHS, and how we can support that as well. So it's multifaceted, really. Lynn, do you want to add anything to that?
Go on, you can. You can. Say anything you want, Lynn. Just say anything. It's your platform now.
This is working. I would just reinforce what you've said really about we know from the evidence and the research that our staff are mainly supported by their colleagues and their peers and their managers. So I think investing in our leaders within the organisation, our managers, and I think Amir Carr said that really well, as you said, Michelle, in his presentation, that's really important. We're very mindful of that. However, I am really passionate about staff health and wellbeing. I do chair the group, supported by a lot of colleagues in the room today, and we have invested in relation to feedback from the staff survey, but actually what our staff tell us. So we've got a really engaged staff health and wellbeing group. They give us lots of ideas and suggestions, and in the main, I think we can demonstrate that we have actually invested in all of those. So the fact that we've actually got dedicated health trainer, expertise in our occupational health team, we've got dedicated occupational therapy in there as well. So I think we really have been quite innovative around that, and we'll continue to work around psychological and emotional well-being too. So we've got a next year.
Thanks, Lynn. I promise Michelle will not pass the microphone to you again. This time.
I would like to talk about the role of the governors and the engagement with the community. The thing about Whitby Hospital is that the first hospital opened in 1924. Wasn't the first hospital, but the first hospital on this site. And it was owned as a war memorial. And the people raised the money to build the hospital. And the people of Whitby actually feel that this hospital is theirs. And one of the really big things is about keeping that community engagement and relationship and sense of being able to contribute and take part and benefit. So I'm really keen that we as governors, and that particularly in Whitby, we continue to actually see that community engagement in the way that you're talking about it with the staff. That our community of people who benefit from us, from the work that's given by the Trust, actually feel they're part of it and they can give to it. And through the governors and other activities, we can ensure that people can have a sense of ownership of our Trust.
Well, that deserves a round of applause as well, I think, doesn't it? Thank you, Dov. I don't think there are any other questions we've got.
There is one more if you'd like one more.
Oh gosh, right. This is the dangerous one. Go on,
It was
then,
just
Rachel.
because it's linked to the last one. There's one about recruitment. So one of the best things that we can do for our teams is have the right people to do the jobs. So there's a question about how we're supporting recruitment in the NHS this year.
Okay.
I think it builds on what we've already said about the suite of offerings, but I just ask people to look at hashtag unbelievable, because that's the whole, I think I alluded to that in the presentation that we started this particular year that we're reviewing, which is about little videos from each of our members of staff in different areas. So we'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to use social media platforms as much as we can, but also I think reaching more hard to reach groups as well, as I've said, in different communities, and also to stress that the NHS isn't just about clinical staff. There's loads and loads of corporate posts and corporate positions that people can apply for that gives people great career opportunities. And as I say, that everybody in the organisation, no matter what they do, affects patient care, and we're in the privileged position of affecting people's lives on a day-to-day basis, and I think that's, for me, is what the NHS is all about. So come and work in the NHS, and certainly come and work for Humber, because, you know, look at the Unbelievable campaign.
We do with young people. So in psychology, we've been supporting mentorship for children who are at St Mary's College, which is a health academy, and that's about getting their future interest in a career in psychology. And also the increased work we've done about diversity and helping people to access health professions who might not ordinarily have been able to do that because of particularly financial disadvantage. So there's some projects that we've been involved in that hopefully help with the future pipeline of recruitment in Humber.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, that's really good work, because the other thing about it is that, you know, my experience is lots of people, you know, end up possibly doing the same jobs as their mum and dad or the people around them. And if you don't see in your own family, your own community, nurses, doctors, psychologists,
Director of Finances, you know, you just don't see yourself in those jobs. So as well as being unbelievable, it's about being believable. It's a seeing is believing exercise, and I think that's our engagement that's with schools, and the work you're doing with St Mary's is so important. But across the trust, you know, and we've got the Humber youth group as well. I mean, part of that again is growing our own, and that's not just young people. It might be people across the area we serve who maybe want a second chance at a job, and they never thought of seeing themselves in a job within the services that we provide for. So, you know, this isn't just about the youngsters, it's about older people as well who maybe think, you know, years ago I wish I'd done that, but nobody said I could see myself doing that job, I could do that job. And that's a really important part, I think, of our recruitment as well. Kate.
In our recruitment of clinical psychologists this year, we've got an ex-police officer and an ex-fisherman coming to train with us.
They have got to come to the board and talk to us about that together. That would be great. That would be lovely to meet them and hear their story as well. And that's such a really good example to sort of come to a close on as well. Before we see the final video, and for those watching, you realise we love videos at Humber Trust. I'd just like to say thank you to everybody for being here today. Thank you very much to our governors, Doff and others who've helped put this event together today with our colleagues from within the Trust. Can I say thank you to my non-executive directors who are here today. Francis Patton, put your hand up, there's it. Dean Royals, and Philip Earnshaw, who's joined us, and Hanith and Mike and Stuart couldn't be with us, but thank you for all you do as well. Thank you for all the services that have been here today on the market stall. Please don't pack up too quickly. Oh, maybe you've done it already, but I can swing by and say hi. It's great to have been able to have this event in person. Thank you to all of you who've been here today. Thank you to those who are watching, and we're really looking forward to working with you and hearing from you in the year ahead. So, roll video.
This is our trust. From Willoughby and Whitby.
I think the new development is going to be very beneficial, not just to the staff, but to the community as well.
To Scarborough and Malton, Bridlington and Goole, we are one community.
One of the first things that struck me about the staff here was their compassion and commitment to high-quality patient care.
From the dedicated staff working tirelessly to provide vital services.
Staff are our greatest asset and we need to look after them.
To our patients and service users.
Putting the patients and their families at the very heart of their care.
We are constantly looking to the future because we look to provide the best care, both for the public and our staff.
We recently looked at our environment and decided it was time for a change.
Refurbishment of Granville Court Gardens in Hornsey.
Humber gave us the actual tools and impetus to turn the practice around.
From world-leading research projects to caring for the most vulnerable amongst us.
It's about asking a question, how are you?
It's not just improve, but then be the best.
We strive through the challenging times and the good, and we succeed because we are a community.
It's delightful. It gives me a buzz.
So proud of our achievements to date and really looking forward to the future. I think the charity can only go from strength to strength.
We are one trust. We are the Humber Teaching NHS Foundation Trust.